So just going to give a quick tutorial on how I use my MPC 1 to sample old records, show you how to make a quick beat, start sampling a random, and I mean completely random record, so hopefully I don't get a copyright claim, and I'm going to sample it with you, and I'm going to make the beat with you, and we're going to turn it into something cool. Alright? So I've got some people in my studio today, so instead I took home the equipment just to play around. I have all these old records that I got in 1997 at an estate sale. All right, and I got them for free because I was helping the antique salesman, who was my buddy's father, move all the stuff out of this house to his shop. And I said, "Hey, what about all these records?" And he said, "You got them as long as you move them." And they're heavy. I'll tell you, these are old school. If you look at the thickness on these, they are thick. And yeah, the MPC 1 is a go-to for a lot of people. Jay Dilla was like one of the first pioneers to use an MPC. And so the Akai MPC 1 is something that I find really easy to use. I'm not going to have a digital display of what I'm doing on here, so I'm going to actually probably turn the lights off so that you can see the screen while I'm doing screen work. And then I'll show you how the whole process goes. But it's interesting, it's fun, it's not that hard once you figure out the basics. Alright, so I've got the MPC 1 off. I'm going to show you quickly how I have this whole thing set up, some housekeeping, some basics, and then I'm going to turn it on and show you the whole process. So the way I have this set up is I just have some computer speakers plugged into the front, the phone outlet. I've got my SD card, which I'm going to save things to, which is a non-local, non-within side of this, not a local hard drive in the MPC 1. This way I can put that into a computer and transfer files really easily without using the USB on the back of this thing. So the Audio Technica is what I'm going to use to sample. All right, and this version of what I got, which is, I forget the call numbers on this thing, has RCA out on the back. So that wire is coming straight out of the back of this thing. So it's got RCA out. What I had to do to get this to work properly is I had to get an adapter that goes RCA to TS, which is the standard 1/4-inch cable. All right, so I got two of those, and that way now the Audio Technica is going to go directly into the inputs on the back of the Akai MPC 1. This is your outputs. That's where your sound would go to, but these are the inputs, okay? Now you've got your power over here and all that jazz. I'm not even going to use the USB for any of this. There's two things that get people. So there's your volume. All right, so that's something that's going to impact the master volume. So your headphone jack on the front is going to get impacted by that. So if that thing is down, you're not going to hear anything and you're going to get frustrated. You're going to try a billion things. So make sure you have some volume on your master, which is to your outputs. And then that's your recording level. So that one over here is what your inputs are going to send you. All right, so I've got that turned all the way up. Some people don't have it all the way up. They do 50-50, but I'm going to have it all the way up for this example. Now this gear here, I've got my Scarlett 2i4. It's an oldie. You can plug this directly into the MPC 1 with the new firmware update, but I'm not even using this for this demo. But if you want to see that in a video, send it in a comment and I'll respond to it, and maybe I'll do a video on how to use the Focusrite 2i4, and 2i2 is pretty much the same, directly into the MPC 1, and you can literally mic up your own audio straight into the MPC 1 now, which is pretty cool. By the way, if you like this video, you get some value out of it, please subscribe, like the video, follow me in the future. This channel is not going to be just music stuff, but it's going to be a lot of fun stuff. So hopefully you can follow and subscribe and like and all that jazz. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm going to turn this thing on. All right, takes a little bit to get going. Okay, so we've got our home screen. This is the first thing you're going to see when you open up your MPC 1 and you turn it on. All right, so you've got your project templates, you've got your demos, and then you've got your recent projects, and then you have empty projects. All right, so these templates are nice for certain reasons, and the demos have pre-populated stuff. But I'm going to start an empty project. So I click that bottom left button, and here's our empty project, okay? Now, in order to get a sample going, I need to hit the sampler button. And what that does, it pops that right up. Now, if you want to get out of this, and this confuses a lot of people, you're like, all right, I'm in the screen. How do I go back? Hit main. hit the main button right here. That's the button that you're going to use all the time. All right, back to main. Good. Now we should do a quick overview of what these three things are so that you understand real quick. So before we even sample anything, you've got the first part, which is your sequence. You've got the second part, which is your track within that sequence. And then you have your program, which is basically the instrument that you're using within that track, okay? So if you want to look at the way these things are composed, and you'll see this in function as we go forward, the sequence is like your 4 bars of a sound. Within that sound, you've got tracks of different sounds that are programmed in it. And in those tracks, you've got sounds that are programmed within it. So it's like 3 levels. It looks more confusing than it is. We're set up right now as an instrument, or a MIDI setup. So those 4 dots right there is all we're going to talk about today. All right, so that's what I'm going to be using. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change our beats per minute. All right, so click on that. You can then scroll through by using that, or you can double click on here and type in a number. And let's say that we want this to be 80 beats per minute. All right, so we're at 80 beats per minute. Do it. All right, so now we're at 80. I'm going to make this a 4-bar section that we're going to work on. So I scrolled through to make that 4 bars. All right, now we're in sequence 1. Now we've got the track and the drum program. We need to add in an actual program because right now we don't have anything on these pads. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit browse, and it's going to take us to where we can add things into these tracks. I'm going to go to expansions. You'll have these pre-saved, and we can pull in a kit. So let's listen to what that... Okay, whatever, sounds good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and load that kit up. All right, so it's loading in to... And then you might say, wait, well now where am I? I want to go back to the other screen. Always hit main. All right, so now you see that kit is there. Okay, all right, we got the kit. Now let's say I might want to also bring in another kit later in this sequence. Let's add another kit. So I'm going to say, all right, we're going to use the grid kit. All right, I'm going to load that one too. All right, so now we have 2 kits loaded. I said, well, how are we going to use those? But let's go through that. All right, so we've got the 2 different kits. All right, so let's make a simple beat and on track 1, and then we're going to put in a second part of the beat on track 2, and I'll show you how that works. All right, so I've got the 80s F9 grid kit in there. I'm going to set up a note repeat, okay? This is going to be for the hi-hat, our metronome. All right, so I'm going to hit shift, and I'm going to hit note repeat. All right, that's going to stay lit. And then we've got our different selections. You can do 16th notes, 32nd notes. For this one, I'm going to do 8th notes. All right, and we want that to be our note. And you'll see with note repeat on, these I can't play faster than it allows, you know, as far as it's programmed. Okay, so we've got 8th notes. So if you hold this down, it's just going to play 8th notes. Okay, let's set that up as our background, our metronome. All right, so we've got the way you're going to do this to start recording. You're going to have a count in, which you can set up in your metronome. I'm not going to go into all the details there, but metronome up top, which is right there, is where you're going to set up your count in. I have a 4-click count in. You're going to hit overdub and play start, not play start. And what that does, it starts it at the beginning, and I'll show you how that works. So let's hit play start. We're going to start recording. 2, 3, 4. Okay, you see it's starting to go. I'm going to do the whole 4 bars, keeping that held down. All right, now it's in the system. Now if I want to see it, go to this hashtag here that's showing me what's in the grid, what's getting played. I'm going to hit stop. All right, so now we've got that in there. We've got that programmed in. Great. Now let's say that I like the hi-hat on the grid kit, but I want to have a different kick and snare. So remember we had added in some other kits, right? So I can move this to, let's say the hits kit and grid together. Now what I want to do, if I change that right now and then I play it, it's actually got this kit now, not the kit that I had originally selected, because we're in this track. So this track is saying use this sound. So if I want to use a different sound, I have to go to a new track, right? So let's say I want this to be, I want it to be under the initial kit that we had, the grid kit. All right, so now that's set. I'm going to hit stop. Now we're going to create a new track. to use the other kit. Now I've got an unused track. Now I go back to my kit, and I'm going to go to the grid and hits kit. All right, so now I've got this available to make my beat, all within the same sequence. Okay, so I'll show you how that works. So now I'm going to play this manually. I don't want note repeat on, so now I can play as much as I want. Okay, so this is going, and I'm going to hit overdub, not record, overdub, because I want to keep the other sound and I want to dub this on top of it. All right, now I'm going to hit the play start button. Now give me a count in. It's a pretty basic beat, right? Let's see how it sounds. So those doubles I didn't come in because I have this track set up to only listen to eighth notes. So when I played those 16ths, it only picked up the eighth note. So I wanted to show that. So now when we look at our grid, it's not going to go quicker than an eighth note, no matter how fast I play. Now let's say I want to add in just the snare here. So we're going to go, listen to it in your head. We're going to go boom, 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 click, boom, 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 boom. You'll see it play through right here. Snare. Okay, so we got that sequence is in there. And I'll show you on the other screen if you hit main. So we've got that going in track 2. And in track 1, we had the other kit going. So now that is saved. All right. So we're still in the same sequence. All right. So now let's go ahead and sample something. So we've got a random record, as I said. It's Frankie Carl. So we're going to pull in a random sample from this. Now, if I want to put the sample in, I need another track, right? Because these are already used up. Because we want to stay within this sequence. I want these all to play together, but I need a new track for the sample. All right, so I'm going to hit unused, third track, right? And now I'm going to hit sampler. Okay, now we see our sampler is set up. All right, so the key things that you're going to want to do on this, if you want to hear what you're sampling, you're going to hit that monitor on. All right, so now that says monitor in is on. And we've got our levels here. Input is 1 and 2, which is the 1 and 2 on the back here. You can change that, but we're going to use the 1 and 2. I'm going to do this as mono because a lot of these records don't come in stereo that well always, but I always plug both in just in case I get a good stereo sound, but likely it's going to come through as mono with something this old, so I want to record it as mono. All right, and then you're going to arm your track, and then you're going to hit record. So what you do first, you turn this thing on, right? So we got the record going. I'm going to move the needle, and I'm going to use the lower button on the Audio-Technica so I don't scratch things, which is right over here, right? So it's going to gently lower this down. So I'm going to hit that button and we'll see what we get. So it's lowering it down for me. Okay, now we're getting sound. Good. All right, so now I want to actually pull in a sample. So we're going to arm it and then we're going to hit record and it's going to start recording, right? So it's recording this sound off the record as we're going. Let's get something like a, I don't know, 11, 12 second sample here and we'll start pulling some information out of it. All right, so it's going to hit stop and then we're going to hit stop. All right, let's name this sample. You hit the name there and I'm going to hit Carl, C-A-R-L-E, beat. Okay, so now that is named. I'm going to hit do it. Cool. All right, now I'm going to hit edit because I want to go in and edit this thing. All right, so there it is. So I'm going to show you the next steps. So let's say first thing you want to do is set your start and your end of your sample. You have too much on the front end and on the back end and you want to trim it down. So what you're going to do is you're going to, using Q-Link, these buttons, Q-Link is going to change as you click through to change what these knobs do. All right. So let's say I want to trim a little bit off the start. So I'm at Q-Link 1. Top knob is the start. I'm going to scroll that back. Let's say I scroll it to about here, right? And we'll see how that sounds. Okay, that sounds like it starts at a good point. Now let's say we want to trim the end. I'm going to Q-Link to number 2. Okay, and now I'm going to use this knob and I'm going to draw back at the end. Okay, we're somewhere around here. All right, sweet. Now we have it trimmed. So I'm going to hold down the shift button. Oop. Sorry, I'm going to go to process, my bad. And now I'm going to hit discard. All right, so now it's going to take the front and the end off. I'm going to hit do it. Okay, so it trimmed it down. The other thing that you're going to want to do, most likely, is normalize it. So go back to what normalize does. It takes this wave file and it expands it so that it doesn't clip, but it gives it a lot more of a fuller sound. All right, so I'm going to move over to the normalize, and you'll see now it's going to take that and it's going to make it a broader, wider wave form, which means it's going to be a fuller sound. I'm going to hit do it. All right, now we get a fuller setup. All right, so the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to trim these into little clips. So you can see we've got trim selected. I'm going to go to threshold. All right, so hit trim. Now we're at chop. I'm going to go to threshold. Threshold. Okay, now you see it trimmed it into a whole bunch of, automated a whole bunch of different clips here, which is too many. I don't need that many. So I'm going to go ahead and hit threshold, and I'm going to move it around until with the scroll button here. Now that threshold is selected, I'm going to move it to a different point where maybe I have a better selection that's like going to make a lot less work for me when I'm trying to trim this out. Okay, so 63 looks like we got a good setup. Now we've got our buttons that are sort of automated to smaller sections. Now I'm not going to go through and edit these, but let's say that you did want to edit one. Let's say you want to edit. Well, this clip right here is useless, right? It's just like a fuzz. All right, so let's say we want to move the start of that and the end of it. All right, so we're going to go, right now we've got end is selected on Q-Link. All right, so let's say we want to move the end. I'm going to use my scroll, move that end over to somewhere around here. And it's going to impact the next clip too, all right? And then we're going to move the start of it by changing our Q-Link to the first button. Now we're going to move the start, and let's scroll that to somewhere around here. Okay. All right, so now that's button number 11. So if we want to hear what pad 11 does, okay, that sounds cool to me. All right, so now we've got that in there. So you've got all these clips, but you might not need all these clips, right? So you want to assign these clips to the pad, but you don't need all these, right? So let's just go ahead and get a few of them onto the pad. All right, so let's go with the first sound that we have there. And now what you're going to do is you're going to hit shift and you're going to hit convert. And you want to make sure that it says assign slice to pad. And you want to make sure that what you're assigning, A4, is this first pad here. And you want to make sure that the program that you're assigning to is not a pre-populated program. It's program 1, which is what you're scheduling your sample into. So we've got that sample, program 1, hit do it. All right, cool. Now let's do the second one. Click on the second sound, shift, convert. Make sure you hit the second button there. I don't know why this keeps popping up as 80s kit, but you want to go to program 1 and hit do it, and so on. All right, so I've just got 4 sounds in there, but that's going to be enough to make something interesting happen. All right, so we've got these in there. Now you say, all right, how do we get back to the other screen? All right, hit main. Our favorite button, hit main. All right, so now we got program 1, right? Oh, we got sounds. Okay, sweet. We got samples. We got things that we can use. But you know what? I don't really love where those landed, right? So I'm going to hit this button here, that second button, maybe third button. I might want to move that up a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to sample edit. All right, and I can go right into that. I can change where that happens, just like I did before. So I'm going to go to Q-Link. I'm at the start, right? I want to move that back. I want to move that back. And this is going to be like a live edit, which is great. Now I want to move the end a little bit. So Q-Link 2, I'm going to move the end back a little bit. All right, let's say we go somewhere around there. And again, these are sort of arbitrary for this example. All right, so now we're good. Let's go back. We'll go back to main. And when we hear these sounds, okay, that's still a little bit wonky on that second one. So let me move the start up on that second one. All right, so we're going to go to the second sound. I want to move the start up so it hits a little bit. I want that to be a little cleaner. Let's go about there. Okay, that's good. Sweet. All right, so we got this all set up, but we want to use our samples, right? So the main thing is that we have these samples in there. I don't think 80 beats per minute is going to cut it, right? So we hear how fast those are, but then when we play our beat, way too slow, right? So I'm going to come up with something I feel like was a little bit closer, and we can tap tempo on it with the record playing, right? So I'm going to go play the record. I'm going to tap tempo. Bum, 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 bum. Let's try around 120. All right, so we got it set up for 120. Now when we play our beat, it's going to be a lot faster, right? Oops, wrong button. Right? So it's going a lot faster when we play this thing. Dun, 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 dun. All right, there we go. Now our samples are going to be a little bit faster, closer. That first sample's not so great, but either way, we'll use them. All right, so I edited these a little bit so they sound a little bit better, as I showed you before. All right, so let's do an overdub. Let's see how it sounds. I'm just going to start throwing down some beats. So we're going to overdub on our regular beat, and I'll just start throwing in some samples here. So we've got this set up, and I think I'm going to do something along the lines of, I'm going to get a beat going here and just like play through it so that I've got something to go with, right? So we've got something going. Let's try some stuff out, right? I felt like this sounded kind of good. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Alright, let's try it out. Let's see how it sounds. Alright, so we're going to hit a little overdub. And again, these are not edited clips, but we're just going to go with it. Alright, so we're going to hit a start here. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Alright, well, we're in, right? Kind of cool, right? So this is not by any means the greatest beat, but that's how to sample, and that's how to get something going. Alright? So, and we can go into how to do other sequences. Just let me know if you guys have interest in that, but that's how to make a sampled beat and sample a record all in one shot. And when you want to save the whole thing, you go up top, there's a little folder, first hit stop. Alright, so we got our folder, sorry. Now we're going to go to Save As. Alright, Save As. We're going to go to our external, not internal, external drive. I'm going to go to MPC tracks, and I'm going to name it. Alright, so we said it was Carl Beat. And we are good. Alright, now that is, don't forget to hit save, and you are saved. Alright, so that's how to do it, kids. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, hit a like if you like this, and thanks for watching.